Hello, you sexy people. How are y'all doing today? We're back again with another video that's a little bit on the darker side. r/MorbidReality Special, the history of human zoos. I saw the picture, you saw the picture, I saw the title, you saw the title. I'm expecting some real foul shit in this. Let's go.
Morbid. Adjective. Characterized by or appealing to an abnormal and unhealthy interest in disturbing and unpleasant subjects, especially death and disease. Today we will explore the subreddit r/MorbidReality, a forum cataloging the deplorable, terrifying, and depressing aspects of humanity. And recently, one post was made that is the epitome of what this subreddit curates. So join me on this exploration through the history of human zoos.
Do I even want to know what's happening in this picture? I mean, I can guess. Y'all can guess as well. God damn it. God damn it.
I'm sure all of us have been to a zoo.
True.
Either your parents took you or a school field trip did.
I've never seen a giraffe that close. I am kind of surprised by how small the fencing on the giraffe exhibit is. Should they not be taller?
No matter your age, it's always a fun experience to see a giraffe or a lion in its simulated
Never seen
habitat.
a giraffe.
But what's lost in all of the fun is the fact that these creatures are in captivity. Many of them cannot be released into the wild because they lack the ability to hunt or defend themselves. But it's not all doom and gloom. Zoos function as sanctuaries for endangered creatures.
Yeah, pandas
and
would have been
a
gone.
museum for people to learn from. They give people a chance to view animals not endemic to their nation, and maybe give children the chance to foster an interest in zoology and the protection of endangered species.
Gorgeous.
With that all being said, how would you feel if you were to encounter a human zoo? We'll be back after the break.
That would be a little
This video
weird.
has been sponsored by Atlas VPN. Atlas VPN
you can't leave us at like a
data and Atlas VPN. Thanks to Atlas VPN for supporting this video. Host nation. They would be kept in villages that were based off of their homeland, and information about the people featured in the exposition would be placed on the outside of their village enclosure. Throughout their existence, such exhibitions garnered controversy over their demeaning, derogatory, and dehumanizing nature. They began as part of circuses, or freak shows, which displayed exotic humans in a manner akin to
exotic
caricature,
humans,
which exaggerated their differences. Over time, human zoos developed into independent displays, emphasizing the exhibit's inferiority to Western.
I'm pretty sure those are the old school type zoo circuses where, the Elephant Man, that dude. But basically, they displayed people with diseases or, like stuff, birth defects.
Western culture, and in the information provided about the human zoo or village enclosure, there would be cultural and scientific information that would bolster or support the justification for its inhabitants' subjugation by the host nation. But to truly understand why human zoos were so popular in the late 1800s to early 1900s, we need to, for a moment, explain the...
I just want y'all to think about it. This was 120, 30 years ago. It wasn't that long ago.
Growth and consumption of freak shows in the Western world. A freak show is an exhibition of biological rarities, referred to in popular culture as freaks of nature. People with physical disabilities, tattoos, piercings, or people with strange and death-defying talents would be featured at freak shows. During the late 19th century and early 20th century, freak shows were at their height of popularity. The period beginning in the 1840s through to the 1940s saw the organized for-profit exhibition of people with physical, mental, or behavioral rarities. Although not all abnormalities were real, some being alleged, the exploitation for profit was seen as an accepted part of Western culture at the time. One of the more infamous events of alleged exploitation was of two siblings, Maximo and Bartola. They were billed as the last living Aztecs, and they suffered from microcephaly, a medical condition involving a shorter than normal head. They were originally from Usulatan, El Salvador. The siblings were given by their mother to a merchant who promised he would take them to Granada to be educated and exhibited. They began performing in the United States between the ages of 8 and 10 years old. Their disability wasn't disclosed to the audience and was instead explained as the legitimate features of Aztec people. The two siblings lived with various different managers, never once receiving payment for their performances. And once they became adults in 1860, they were married to each other by their acting manager and guardian.
Now hold up. R slash hold up. What? I got it. What the fuck?
Mr. Morris, in order
Why
to
am I
bolster their
surprised?
act to earn more money. The siblings would pass away in 1867 from unknown causes.
So,
As freak shows gained popularity in the United States, they were decreasing in popularity in Europe. The rapid decrease occurred between the years of 1935 and 1940 and was the direct result of German occupation of European nations across the entire continent. Many years prior to World War II, the German government declared freak shows to be degenerate and classless and banned them throughout the entire nation. And during their
shit, they ain't wrong though.
occupation of other European nations, that rule followed and subsequently stuck after the war ended. Quickly, ethnological expositions, or human zoos, filled the vacuum. They became a type of sensible freak show because these expositions would be pitched as a learning opportunity, a lot like going to a museum or a regular zoo today. The first records of human zoos being shown to the public were in 1870.
Jesus Christ.
These early expositions were so-called exotic populations and became popular throughout European cities in the late 1800s, but grew immediately after most freak shows were banned across the entire continent. Human zoos have been hosted in every major European city, and the growing fad would spread to the United States and be found in New York and Chicago. This is Otabenga, and his story isn't widely known. Today we will remedy that and explore the horrors of human zoos, not through an outsider's perspective, but through the perspective of one of its involuntary inhabitants.
Oh shit.
Otabenga, born in 1883, was a member of the Mbuti people. Otabenga lived in equatorial forest near the Kasai River in what was then known as the Congo Free State. A lot of his life living in the Kasai River is unknown. Many claims have been made about how he entered the United States, but one hypothesis that has a lot of support from many historians is that during an attack on his village by the Force Publique, a military organization owned by King Leopold II of Belgium, Otabenga's wife and children were killed, and during his escape, he was captured by Bantu slave traders. After that, he was sold to Samuel Phillips Werner. He was a former missionary turned explorer in the Congo and trader of exotic wares and animals.
Hey,
he was commissioned to...
He was a missionary, isn't that like, aren't those people of God? Hey, bro, how you go from a person of God to trading people?
Parade natives from Africa for ethnographic spectacles, and in 1904, Otabenga encountered him and subsequently purchased because he was a physiological curiosity. Otabenga, being a Congo pygmy, made him shorter than average. At the age of 21, when he entered the St. Louis World Fair, he was 4'11". Otabenga and Samuel Werner would arrive in late June of 1904 at the St. Louis World Fair, and when the expositions were set up and Otabenga was placed inside, immediately his attraction became the most popular. Many reporters surrounded the exhibition and reported that Otabenga...
Nowadays this is weird as hell for us, right? Because, I mean, it's just another black person, right? But back then, I mean, if it's the first time you see one, I guess it would be like, yo, what's happening?
Had an admirable personality, and visitors were eager to see his teeth that had been filed to sharp points in his early youth as ritual decoration. Over time, Otabenga learned to charge for photographs and performances. One newspaper account promoted Benga as the only genuine African cannibal in America, and that his teeth were worth 5 cents, as that's how much he would charge to show visitors. Over time, Otabenga realized how much of a prisoner he was inside the World Fair.
Damn.
He would share his grievances with Samuel Werner about not being able to be left alone between performances. People would gawk at him, shout requests for him to perform, and it became very tiring for him. After the fair concluded, Otabenga would be sent back to the Congo. He would live there for a short period of time, get married, and unfortunately lose his second wife to a snake bite. Of course, Samuel Werner accompanied him to the Congo and asked him if he wanted to live in the American Museum of Natural History in New York City.
Wait.
Otabenga agreed.
Live in the museum?
Asked him if he wanted to live in the American Museum of Natural History in New York
What the
City.
hell?
Otabenga agreed once he was told that he would be paid $175 a month to stay inside the museum and act as a living...
Hey, that's a lot of cash from like 100 years ago or something, right? That's basically that's a fucking nice ass wage.
Exhibit. But like the St. Louis World Fair, Otabenga would soon become very disinterested with his work. He realized how little people cared about him and how many people assumed that he was a savage simply because his teeth were filed and that he came from an African nation. Lots of reporters picked up on Otabenga's feelings, writing about how he looked homesick and generally unhappy whilst working at the American History Museum. Bradford and Bloom, a local newspaper in New York, published a few stories about what potentially Otabenga had been feeling while working at the American Museum of Natural History. What at first held his attention now made him want to flee. It was maddening to be inside, to be swallowed whole so long. He had an image of himself, stuffed, behind glass, but somehow still alive, crouching over fake campfire, feeding meat to a lifeless child.
What the hell?
Museum silence became a source of torment,
Bruh.
a kind of noise. He needed birdsong, breezes, trees. After a
Jeez.
while, the curator of the American Museum of Natural
What?
History, Henry Brumpus, noticed Otabenga's change in attitude. Brumpus then contacted Samuel Werner and pitched that Otabenga should be sent to the Bronx Zoo. Samuel Werner took advantage of this
Bronx
opportunity and sent Otabenga to the Bronx Zoo in 1906. At the beginning, Otabenga was given the task to maintain animal habitats. However, William Hornday, the director of the zoo, noticed that people took more notice of Benga than the animals at the zoo, and he
God.
eventually created an exhibition to feature Benga. He was given a costume in an orangutan named Gohan. Otabenga spent most of his time inside the monkey house exhibit and was even encouraged to move his bed there. And the sign outside of the monkey house exhibit said this: African pygmy, Otabenga, age 23 years, height 4 feet 11 inches,
Damn.
weight 100.
This dude is 23 and he's already had 2 marriages.
3 pounds.
Jesus.
Brought from the Kasai River, Congo Free State, South Central Africa, by Dr. Samuel P. Werner. William Hornday considered the exhibit a valuable spectacle for visitors, and his decision to have Otabenga inside the monkey house was supported by Madison Grant, the secretary of the New York Zoological Society.
Okay,
Though
mustache
many
though.
people at the time found Otabenga's exhibition to be entertaining, many in the African American community didn't. Many protests were made to stop the exhibition, while also calling for the immediate release of Otabenga into regular society. The protests continued,
Okay.
and the Bronx...
Okay, I'm not getting something here. So first off, they sent him to the museum, and it was a job, right? Which means, as any job, you can just leave at some point, right? Because they're paying him, which means he was hired. I assume it was the same when they sent him to the zoo. He was still hired. Like, can he not say, yo, I want to fucking leave and leave? If it's his job, right? He can do that, right? I assume. Or at least that's what I got. Maybe he
Zoo
couldn't, and
responded
that would
by
be fucked
letting
up.
Otabenga
But if he
roam the
can,
zoo
nah.
instead of staying inside the
understand.
monkey house. Otabenga was very receptive to the protesting. He wanted to be free of this job
So
and
he
to
couldn't
live a normal
leave.
life. So when the Bronx Zoo chose to just let him walk outside of the monkey house instead of remaining inside it for the entire
He ran?
duration of a workday, he chose to become more mischievous and violent towards the crowd and other workers that were at the zoo. Over time, the jeering and chanting and taunts from the crowd and the actions of Otabenga became too much for the Bronx Zoo to handle, and the zoo finally removed Benga from the grounds. Samuel Werner at this time encouraged Otabenga to remain in the United States and to gain an education. African American newspapers before and after he left the zoo published editorials strongly opposing Benga's treatment. His story was widely circulated among African American communities, but remained widely unknown to the vast majority of Americans for a very long time. 4 years after leaving the zoo, Otabenga learned how to read and was working at a tobacco factory in
27?
Lynchburg, Virginia. He had his sharpened teeth capped so that he could assimilate into society, and he saved as much money as he could so he could return back to Africa. But with the
Okay.
outbreak of World War I in 1914, all passenger ship travel stopped, forever keeping Otabenga from returning to his homeland.
for 4
this
years,
This
not
reality
forever, but-
devastated him. He knew that it was impossible to return home. He developed depression, and on March 20th, 1916, at the age of 32 or 33, Otabenga built a ceremonial fire, chopped off the caps of his teeth, and shot himself in the heart with a barreled pistol. He was buried in an unmarked grave in the black section of the Old City Cemetery, located in Lynchburg, Virginia.
The what section?
Unmarked grave in the black section of the Old City Cemetery, located in Lynchburg,
Is that what I think? Do they separate black and white gray? What?
Virginia.
Or is that just the
Unfortunately,
section called the
according
black
to
section?
Local history, his body was quickly moved
yeah.
after he was buried, and his bones are lost. The story of Otabenga really puts into perspective how dark human zoos were, and how the exposition of a human was viewed by wider society. This was normal. These events were not seen as exploitation, these were spectacles. and there's human tragedies connected to every single one of them. And it's particularly easy for humans now, for civilizations now, to point out the degeneracy of a human zoo. But put yourself into the shoes of someone living in the early 1900s, and ask yourself honestly, if you were to encounter a human zoo, how would you feel?
I mean, you can't really put yourself in their shoes because you know stuff, and if you were in their shoes, you wouldn't know stuff. So all of this would be, it's impossible to put yourself in their shoes, be like, oh, how would you react to this? How the fuck would I know how would I react to this? I would be a completely different person. Come on, brother. Hey, you don't know. You cannot know. It's impossible.
Hello, everyone. It's your boy Ailurus, aka Panda Dad.
Hey, I gotta be honest with you. Hey, it was dark, but from what I understood, they offered him a job and he took it. Like, he was home. So there must have been something. And when he went back to Africa, I was like, yo, I don't really want to stay here anymore. Maybe it's the fact that he lost another wife. I don't know. Maybe that's what made him go like, hey, I'm gonna go to America again, get a job over there, $100 a month. That's probably a lot of cash back then. I don't know. Hey, it didn't seem that sad to me. I gotta be honest with you. It's fucked up, but for 100 years ago, 120, 30 years ago, on the fucked up scale of considering what kind of shit was happening back then, World War I, II, it didn't seem that bad to me. I don't know. Hey, maybe I'm just desensitized. That's a word, probably. Anyway, let me know what y'all think about this whole story. What y'all think? If you could put yourself 100 years back, what do you think you would respond? I don't think anyone can answer that, but hey, if you guys think you're up for it, let me know how you would feel 100 years back about this whole situation. Okay? Anyway, if you want to see more Reddit, r/whatever reactions, check out the playlist right here. Quick thank you to the YouTube members and Patreons. Thank you all for the support and have a nice day, everybody. Bye-bye.